if you will, the 20th of April 2021. And I am Glenn Curry along with.
Good evening, everybody.
You just had a wonderful conversation with can I call him your mentor?
Yes,
What do
you
I
can.
call him?
You can call him your mentor. My mentor.
Scott McFall. Exactly who Scott is, if you could.
Well, Scott is a mentor, a corporate trainer, a hypnotist, and a neurolinguist. He specializes in helping people improve their lives in many different ways, in group settings, one-on-one, from the past and into the future.
All right, so I'm just going to have the layman's approach to my description. You know, you're getting very sleepy, or you look at a tunnel like in Time Tunnel. Woo, I'm all hypnotized, and then you got Ed Norton. You know, Lulu. You know, from the Honeymooners. That is my impression.
Hello, Ball.
And again, not to mention, I went to Oswego State when Oswego State was actually a cool place to go to, and many other schools.
How dare you, sir?
So, but with that, at Oswego State, they had a lot of people that would go to this hypnotist would actually be in front of maybe 1,000 people. It was a lot of people. And then he'd have these behind the doors conferences and whatnot for like an extra $20, which was $1 million when you were in college in the early 80s. And then so people would delve into this whole thing about their past. But during that time, we were in this audience there at the Student Union, and he would literally have people go back into their, when they were a baby and whatnot. So again, this is my and then he would be weary of the fact that other hypnotists were on campus prior to him, audience of falling over and whatnot. He says, whoa, whoever did that last really wasn't paying attention. So again, that's my experience, at least, with hypnosis. Correct me if I'm wrong or right or any of that. Is that what Scott does?
I believe that you went through that.
Yeah, I went through it, but that's how ignorant I am of hypnosis. You have other clinics. You have a new one in Kansas City as we speak.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, okay, so there's a lot of people that got to lose weight, they got to stop smoking, they have a vice and whatnot. But and then you talk to Scott today, and it's corporate this, corporate that. It's like I am completely out of bounds. I have no clue what you guys do. So explain why you talk to Scott and what Scott does.
First, let's do this. Let's talk about the fact that people want to systematically categorize their lives. Okay.
Right.
Just naturally. A lot of people do. Mm-hmm. And that would be maybe at home at breakfast time, driving a car, being around friends, being in a situation that's professional, like employment.
Right.
Being around family, being at a barbecue, going to a ball game, going to bed at night, being intimate with your wife or your loved one or your husband or whoever's watching has somebody they've been connected to before, I'm guessing. And the fact of the matter is what you're saying is common. And that is people do put walls or these things in boxes. And what you would like to do, what you'd like to accomplish is being comfortable enough with yourself so that you can be the same person in all those situations and still be successful. And what I mean by successful is still being able to treat people the way they should be treated, getting responses that you desire, like looking for certain things to happen successfully, and being comfortable with who you are as a person.
Okay.
So what you just mentioned is extremely important. And while we have yet to touch on that with Scott, I would love to talk to him more about that, definitely.
You guys had a great conversation today. You almost spoke for half an hour. Scott is a very saying he sees dozens of people every day, just like you do.
Yes.
And so his time is very limited, to say the least. He was literally in a parking lot in his car waiting to go to his next appointment. But what exactly did you and Scott discuss?
Well, I want you to first think about this. When you can listen to somebody or expect somebody to care so much about you that whatever they say is deeply, deeply in the interest of what you want to have happen or what you need to have happen to have your life better. So if you can see somebody and listen to them and know their whole existence in those moments while you watch is bent on you getting relief and moving towards your goal, then that's exactly why he's so busy, because that's what his whole life revolves around. Mm-hmm. So we spoke about, the first thing I'd like to touch on that we spoke about, which you'll all see here in a moment, is the difference between cold reading and actually reading somebody for their benefit. So to get this out of the way, there are lots of cool tricks you could do with cold reading.
Okay.
And I think I might unveil those tricks, or at least part of those tricks, to you all right now.
Nice. Am I like a guinea pig with this? What do I have to do for this?
You don't have to do much at all. Although you'd want to keep the camera on you as I speak if you do want to play this game.
I do want to play this game. Yes.
This is so much fun. This is real. I have a really
All
good.
right, the camera's on me. Here we go.
So I have a friend, and I'm not going to say her name, but I'll let her. I'll actually ask her if it's okay to talk more about this and with her name involved.
All right.
It's not that much of a personal thing.
Yeah.
So here is what she does.
Okay.
Many of us are stage hypnotists. I myself am a stage hypnotist,
Okay.
and that is what we do as a stream of hypnosis income. That's what part of our job.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And as you did in Oswego State, you'd notice that a lot of the things that he was saying way back is actually common now.
I'm sure.
Right? But a lot of it also has to do with vaccinating against abreactions to the prior hypnotist. So the other hypnotist could have been his dad, right? It could have been his best friend.
Right.
So he wasn't really trying to diss everyone else. He was actually including them in the fold, and that's almost like something that we're trained to do.
Okay.
In this situation, what this woman does is just as cool, not cooler. It's just as cool. She dresses like a gypsy.
Okay.
She has a fake Hungarian accent and a giant crystal ball. She dresses the part too, as a soothsayer, a fortune teller.
Was she in a Borat movie or something? Or?
No, she's actually at prom. So she does after prom parties and corporate gigs and anything that it could be deemed entertaining. And she will demonstrate cold reading as a psychic would.
Okay.
Right. And I don't know any psychics personally. I see them, the neon signs. I think they have some in town here, and there's a bunch down in central New York, and I've seen them pretty much everywhere.
Right. Yeah, like Whoopi Goldberg from Ghost is the only. Yeah. Go ahead.
Right. So this is what they're doing, and I'm going to do this with you right now. And I want to ask you any personal questions.
Okay, good. So
all
I'm
this is
going to leave the camera on me.
It's going to be very easy for you to.
Hit me.
It's going to be. I'm still going. It's going to be very easy for you to respond because it's not going to be that personal question.
Okay.
So when you think of things that you ponder on the most, it either comes from the past, the present, or the future.
That's a tough question.
This is the key to cold reading. So notice how it's something that any of us can do that can pay attention and audience somebody else. Audience being listening and watching somebody else. So what happened there was, and maybe we can even replay it, as a producer to these things, I'm not super talented.
Right.
There were certain responses.
Don't answer. I mean, even if I don't even answer it like I just didn't answer before.
So your eyes moved to a different location.
Interesting.
So what I noticed was when I did that, and I think I can find a way to play this over in front of folks.
That's right.
Was that the present doesn't bother you at all. Now you had the biggest unconscious response to the past and the biggest conscious response to the future. And notice that literally anybody who goes through this is going to want to answer those three things a certain way. So
Okay.
and now that's just the beginning. So I wouldn't say this next part to you, well, if I was playing psychic and I had a scarf on my head and, was dressed funny,
Right.
or had a crystal ball in front of me. What I would do is just take that as the next step in that path. So I would take those three choices. I would say I'd start talking about your past, and then I'd start mentioning people
Okay.
or events.
Okay.
And as you responded the same way to each one, you would start having aha moments and think that I was
A soothsayer.
brainiac.
Right.
But all that's happening is you're actually physically responding to things, and it just seems like it fits into your life.
Okay.
This is what we call cold reading, folks. And it's something that it takes a lot of practice and is used in many different ways. It's used, as a gag, and it's used to manipulate people. So the reason why I'm talking about this is because this has no part in what we're doing in hypnosis. This has nothing to do with the hypnosis, the clinical process, change work, mentorship, or anything else that could be put into that category.
Okay.
So when Scott vaccinated against that, when he spoke about cold reading about 3/4 of the way through with this interview,
Right.
his following interview,
Yeah.
this is what he's actually
Same.
talking about, right?
Okay. All right. So you're going to continue with me?
No, that's it.
That was it. So you asked me one question.
And I know-
I didn't answer it, and yet is that silence speaks volumes, or
But you did answer it.
I did answer it.
Right. So if you watch or talk to anyone who is a professional poker player, they'll say that, in their wisdom, they'll say that everybody has a tell. So there's a physiological response to everything, and it just takes an eye that's practiced, not naturally that good, but
Right.
practiced.
Right. Like a good card player.
That's right, like a good card player. So this is the soothsaying, this is the cold reading, and this is for entertainment. It's great. This is going to be the reason I'm putting this on the table now is because this is the opposite of what we're talking about today.
Okay. See, whenever, it's amazing. Whenever I have, because I'm a moron, but if you're saying, oh, it's the opposite effect, and I'm like, oh, I have a hard enough time with the real effect. Now you're telling me it's the opposite effect. You must explain. If you can explain things to me, you could explain things to everyone. What does the opposite effect mean? What does that
So
mean?
when we talk about the read, we talk about audiencing people.
Right.
And really taking them in and almost literally wearing their clothes or their shoes around, feeling some of the things that they would go through. And remember, it's presented to us. It's not something that we go out into the street and try to just grab people and tell them what to do.
Right.
So when somebody presents things to us, it's more important to the thing that's the most important is feeding it back to them and having them receive it. That's much more important than actually understanding or having a feel for what's happening.
Okay.
Or seeing what's happening in front of you. So, it's based on probably dozens or even hundreds of different filters of information. Being trained in it allows a person or somebody who wants to do it and wants to be trained in it or just wants to be able to have the skill. It's more important so you can find out, you can step outside yourself, as we spoke about last time, and have an idea of what they're reacting to and how it's just not as suitable as it once was.
Okay.
So it's a behavior that worked in the past, and being able to repeat it back to the person so it makes sense.
Okay.
But more importantly, hits home.
All right. So again, only because I'm lost. What does that mean? I mean, okay, what am I? Is this all stemming from my reaction earlier? Or
Audiencing, which we'll probably segue into here in a moment.
Okay.
So it's really important to know that everything works until it doesn't. And everything that you're going through has a positive response or a positive intention. Another thing that we speak about here that I want everyone to be able to take in and take seriously, if you are serious about improving your life, is that you can separate the person from what is happening with them.
Okay.
So you have respect for the person and contempt for the problem.
Okay. All right. That's
And-
easy enough for me.
Well, I'm glad it's easy for you because it's not easy for most people.
Right.
I mean, even for some of us, right?
Yeah.
Some things are going to be sensitive and hit home.
Yeah. No doubt.
So remember, the doer is one category and the deed is the second, and the deed is what needs to be trashed. The deed is what needs to be thrown out
Okay.
or restructured. So, for instance, let me give you a for instance that's simple. It's simple because most problems are simple. Some people just emotionally don't want to talk about some things.
Right.
So
Sure.
if I talk about a smoker, and I say to the smoker, just to make sure that I'm clear and they're clear, it's really important that you follow the instructions and follow me into each suggestion. So right now, I just want to clear up. I'm curious. I'm just curious as how you think you do this.
Okay.
Did you become hooked on smoking? Does smoking provide for you a certain emotional response that could be tied to maybe the sugar in cigarettes
Right.
or any of the physiological changes you get from taking the
Wait. There's sugar in cigarettes?
sun,
Well, okay.
or all the substances that are in there that are causing your body chemistry to change?
Right. Yeah.
Or have you just been programmed to take a break and that break was attached to a cigarette?
That's
And it could
interesting.
be anything in between.
Right.
So when you speak to somebody, they'll have an aha moment in front of you. You
Yeah.
know that that's correct.
Yeah.
And you just work with them into
Right.
the space where you can get that same response another way. And it's that casual, it's that caring,
Right.
it's that gentle when they are the person, like they truly came to you for help.
Yes.
Now remember, I know I've had this discussion with you before, just off camera, off microphone. When it comes to smokers,
Yeah.
just like anybody else, 80% of them are just easy to deal with.
Right.
And then 10% of them are really in such a painful place.
Huh.
Maybe they're super sensitive to the way that there's a stigma to smokers now. Maybe they realize that they had parents or grandparents that were also
Smokers.
and died from it.
Right.
And they know that people care about them, but yet still need something for themselves. They can they can present, let's say, they present themselves a certain way, and you have to be prepared to keep your ground when it comes to being gentle, caring, and in a space where you can be graceful in their change.
Okay.
So that is just an example of the read.
All right.
The read being an actual, in time, in the moment, personal assessment of what they feel that they want to change, and unconsciously what they're telling you needs to change, rather than a parlor trick that will make you feel like you know what's going on.
All right. So are we sticking? This is great because this is what I can relate to. You talked about the smoker. The 80% want to stop smoking. The 10% don't want to stop smoking, but they're there anyway. What about the other 10%? We're missing 10%.
I mean, we're right on the right track. The 10%, I mean, I can't force them to quit smoking. They are conflicted about it.
Right.
And a lot of it, I think, I mean, in my mind, they don't feel good about what they've gone through and how much, a lot of people, you know, and people do this. If you're watching this, you can do this right now, just so you know what it feels like. Regret some of the resources they've burned up in the past years with things that didn't come to fruition without noticing it. It's the next step to exactly what you needed. Right. So all those resources, all the time, the relationships, the energy, the money, those things are in the past. And you can let go of that regret because you're here now and where you're supposed to be. So the top 10%, they give themselves a break. It doesn't seem like guilt is a big motivator. They really want to change. And then as they investigate it more, they become fascinated in what change really is. So with those folks, when they come, the elite, they come and they sit down, they're just ready to let it go completely. Smoking or any other problem.
Right.
It really does carry on to every other problem. So they lock those changes away into the improvement and realize too that improvement will once again want to be maybe altered fully or just polished and changed into another behavior. And the folks that are upset, and they come in all shapes and all sizes and all ages, the folks that are obsessed and are motivated by the future, they can, the things they can explore, there's no ceiling. It's limitless. So now everybody can be in that space and people can move in and out of that space. And maybe it's just like stars crossing, lining up. Well, when it comes down to it, knowing what's happening with those folks is from the fact that you care enough to pay attention. And with care, and this is what I found is always the most difficult, people that go into distraction patterns or try to give too much information and try to attach other things that don't make they have no relationship to the change that needs to happen. Right. Being able to cut through that gracefully, but yet still let them know that they don't need to distract anymore. That's a bad thing to do. Right? That's the wrong thing. That's the opposite direction. Right. Now, a lot of us, and I know this is me too, as we move forward, I have actually participated in what Scott was talking about when you were listening in our interview. Right. Was that like when I would in the past would get the answer, I would just stop listening to them. Really? And I think the attempt was to kind of mitigate what they were saying with the content that was not related. Right. Disrespected. And because of the position I was in, they would not tell me I was disrespecting them. Huh. And that was one of the obstacles. Interesting. That a lot of us can befall a lot of us. So remember, there's no reason to regret that because it led the person who was doing that into a place where they could audience better. Mm-hmm. And it's just like that attitude. All right. So you had mentioned earlier, like when someone eating bad enough foods to make them obese, they want to lose weight, or to stop smoking. I think you touched on this earlier. If they learn how to do that, they learn about a lot of things of change. Is that what you were alluding to earlier? That you could change other things as well. That's right. It's absolutely right. I mean, this is not going to be popular. Yeah. Okay. Right. How so? Because it's going to feel like to some people, not all people, but some people are going to feel like they are reflecting into the past and feel like they're being told that they're wrong no matter what. Yeah, that's true. No one likes that. Nobody likes it. No, I don't like it. No one. Not a 15 or 16-year-old kid likes to hear that, nor an adult. Do you remember when it or not? Do you remember that scene in Pulp Fiction when Ving Rhames told Bruce Willis that was just pride effing with him? Yeah, right. That's all it is. Because, I mean, the things that you're revisiting are just stopping you from making a change.
Right.
So every single behavior you have now has a cooler older brother. So every single behavior you have now has a better option that's related to that behavior.
Okay.
So you're never, ever, ever doing anything perfectly right.
No.
But it's effective.
Yeah, I know
If you
that.
want more out of it, you just make the next step to the change. You simplify it is one big thing. You make it more elegant. You make it more flexible and pointed towards the future. But literally everything no matter what you receive emotionally from a behavior, there's a better way to do it. And that doesn't matter if you're somebody who just feels all is lost and you're ready to make a change, or somebody who's mired in a bunch of bad habits that they've surrounded themselves with, right? A bunch of, as we say, limited decisions, things that you want to change, poor attitudes. Or if you're somebody who is obsessed with change in self and others, like Scott, or like Heather, as he mentioned, Heather McFall,
Yeah.
or anything in between, there's always going to be an opportunity to change something. So there's always a better way to get what you're getting. Now, people that have excellent lives realize this and continue to make change, right? And people that don't make change don't really have a taste of that excellent life. Now, I'm talking about being able to focus on the future, having good relationships, handling people and yourself with grace, right? Making connection, taking a break,
Right. Right.
just giving yourself a pass when things don't go perfectly, making a connection to things you want in the future. There's this really, really advanced strategy that's available to people that want to change. And you can almost see it in somebody's face when they're doing it. Is you take where you're at now, whether you're in an unsettled situation where you're growing,
Yeah.
or you're in a situation where you're pretty comfortable and are looking forward to the next change, and compare that physiology to the physiology of your goal. So once you have what you want, right, and let's say that you've explored it, and I'm going to talk about you for a second, Glenn. I don't know what this is not something specific, okay?
Right.
Just imagine this for a second.
Yeah.
When you have a goal, let's say in 10 to 12 years where you want to be,
Right.
and then you notice what you're going through now, you take the comparison. Is this going to support that goal, or is
Right.
it similar to that goal of how I'll feel, how I'll look, how I'll carry myself, the things I surround myself with, the people, the relationships that I have with them, et cetera, right? So that strategy there is really an indicator, because you're never going to be exactly where you want to be in 13 years now. I hope. I mean, I think you have aspirations. I see how hard you work.
Well, yeah, I thought we were talking about 10. I don't know about 13. Just kidding.
I don't know. 13 just popped in. So, I mean, that would be a pretty boring life if you're like, oh, I won the race, I'm done.
Right, right. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, let's face it. A lot of people cash in. I mean, to the most extreme extent at all ages. But I notice. I mean, this is my comparison, and you don't see old clunkers in the front of people's lawns like you used to. That's changed. People can make money on it and whatnot. But I often, I drive through the countryside years ago and I see an old car that was there. I said, when was the first day that car was left there? Was that the day they gave up on the car? Was that also the same day that they gave up on their lives and their home? What
That's a
day
really
did that
interesting
happen?
prospect.
So, yeah, well, I mean, it's just Glenn Curry just, wandering off and then driving into a cornfield, not paying attention to what's in front of him and whatnot. But I stop caring about ourselves. And in a lot of cases, I see people much younger than me on the verge of diabetes. They're pigeon-toed. They can't support the weight above their hips. They weren't meant to be fat. A lot of people that are overweight these days were not meant to be overweight.
They're not built that way.
And they're not built that way. And I think, unfortunately, that changes your disposition of who you are and what you look like in the morning. And I think a lot of people just, quite frankly, give up, Josh. So that's why they need you in your services. And I'm glad people actually do that, because too often people just give up at an early age and just don't give a shit about what they look like.
So
Or how they
you just
are.
brought something up that I've actually had this discussion before. I mean, recently with Michelle, who is the woman who's on the beginning of the video that everyone clicks on.
Yeah.
Now, I wonder, we were at one point, where were we? We were looking at an abandoned house, but it had only been abandoned for like 8 or 9 years.
Right. Doesn't take much. to fall apart.
Without people in it, it just seemed to fall apart so much faster than
Right.
if you have a house, it's not abandoned, obviously.
Right.
But it's not like you're doing repairs. It's not like the body, which repairs every cell in your body is recycled every 7 years. Not that I mean, some cells are recycled at a different rate.
Is,
but
is that the 7-year itch? No, it's
I don't know. So that I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know
Marilyn
much,
Monroe,
but
yeah.
that's one of the things I don't. So people say, experts I've read say that the body has recycled itself in 7 years, and some cells take longer than others. So I don't know what that has to do with the physical function of a house, but I know I lived in a house for many years that I'm not in anymore, and I'm actually getting ready to sell. So if anyone wants, I have a 2-family house that would be great rental property.
Sure.
It's on the market right now. So inquire within.
Yeah.
So I think about all the repairs I didn't do.
Right.
Like I got a brand new roof, like brand new, like down to the studs, right? And that's
Right.
cool. But there's a lot of things I didn't touch. Like I've never touched the front porch. Well, I've been in it for 20 years. It didn't collapse.
After you left, is it empty right now?
Well, it's half empty. One
Okay.
of the apartments is empty.
Is it half empty or half full? You know, are you optimistic? Are you negative? Never mind.
So there's lots of things there that haven't shifted or changed or rearranged while I was present. And I've only been out of the house for about 3 months. So,
Huh.
and I was in it for about 20 years. And before that, I know the gentleman that was there before then, and he was in it for about 8. So I wonder, like, what it takes, what kind of neglect. I mean, how much neglect has to do with the disintegration.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
What word am I looking at?
Deterioration.
Deterioration
Yes,
is
yeah.
what I'm looking for.
Right. Dilapidation. Or
Sure,
dilapidation.
that'll work too.
Yeah.
In that physical sense. like how-
Ramshackle.
when you're not present or, you're not paying attention, but you're still there, or if you completely remove yourself from it, how the rates change. And I think when you talk about the car in the cornfield, right?
Right.
There's a cross section of our family that has the cars. It's
like a Stephen
car in the cornfield. But honestly, so I've been to that yard, right? And this huge piece of property where these folks have built 3 houses on this property in northern Oswego County,
Yeah.
which is one of my favorite places, probably because it's isolated and you can just be by yourself. You know?
Can. Yeah. Oh, you're by yourself, all right.
But I mean, they have these cars, and one of them's kind of cool. It's like a 16 or a 79 Camaro,
Nice.
and it's got the rusted out wheel wells, and it's got the weeds that have grown up into the hood.
Right.
It does beg the question, like when you have that out in the middle of nowhere and it's being ignored, or you have that possession, or you're in that situation and it's being ignored, like how much faster does it deteriorate versus when you're at least present to it,
Right.
Because remember, if somebody just parked that car in the garage, they still have to be in that garage all the time.
Yeah. Right.
So, yeah, that's a really good question. So the read, here we are. Here we are with finding out that you can actually be, like we talked about, we teased that last week in the last episode, you can actually gear yourself to step outside yourself, make yourself less important, and really follow along with somebody that's going through something or doesn't even aware that they're going through. Like, oh, I feel like crap. I'm stressed out. I just had this text message. I'm totally anxious.
Yeah.
Well, when are you anxious?
Right.
When aren't you anxious?
Right.
What happened right before then? Do you think maybe it's a cycle? Do you think it's maybe that's something that you can make the change on the inside, and instead of planning or trying to plan against or in contingency of failure, you plan almost all your energy towards success, and maybe
Right.
the anxiety just disappears.
Right.
Like, have that picture of how you want these things to go.
But
These
there's
are
a lot
fun
of
things to think about.
variables, though. You got to count on a lot of other things, including other people and their actions and appointments, and
So in that
do I
case,
have
I
enough
would,
money and all that stuff.
you're right.
I
You're
mean-
right with that. But again, if you want to plan for the future, the details cannot be the big part of the plan. You just have to trust yourself to be able to react to what's happening in detail.
Okay. Interesting. Josh's phone's been going off
It really has.
all afternoon.
I guess
here.
we're touching on a valid point, or else the universe wouldn't be
The
saying,
universe
"Hey,
is,
keep
is,
going."
is awake or woke.
So, I hope the universe isn't woke.
Yeah, no, it is. Everything's woke. And by the way, we're waiting for at any given time, your phone or my phone could light up with the verdict in Minneapolis, but we're holding with our breath.
What's happening in Minneapolis?
Yeah. A little bit's happening in Minneapolis. Actually, not just Minneapolis, but also what is it, Brooklyn Manor? I thought there was only one Brooklyn. I thought there was a Brooklyn Pickle. Is that
Brooklyn Pickle is excellent food.
Brooklyn Pickle is an awesome place. Of course,
Inquire within.
You take Jewish people from New York and you go to Syracuse and you still have great pickles.
And you have a line that goes
delicatessen.
out the door every lunchtime of every day.
Right. But now I lost my frame of thought. No, but what's going on in Minneapolis, a lot of people are anxious about it because, and let's face it, even though it's 15 earlier from someone that you love and so forth, this is going on all over right now.
Please don't put that on me.
Yeah, well, but at the same time, it's like, we have part of our, I guess, eye on CNN or the local news station and so forth, letting us know, is the country going to burn down? Now, this is not for this discussion. I get that. But
Right.
these are the elements that come in and out of our lives, especially in the last 13 months in the era of COVID.
I think it's important that we. No, I can't say that. So, I figure that if it doesn't affect me directly, I mean, I ignore so much of that stuff, Glenn. I got to be honest.
Well,
with
I
you.
know it doesn't
I have
affect
so
us,
much
but
stuff to deal with.
It has to. Not terrible town.
Yeah,
It's a terrible town.
They're not in good shape.
No, and they have horrible representation
So-
with Lovelace there, or other frig her name is, and so forth.
I don't-
Go ahead. Sorry.
I recently had to deal with something where it seemed like one of the parents, it really wasn't that big a deal, but they seemed angry and a little curt with some of the children in the family. And the response from the children was completely inappropriate, okay? Which is not to say that it was cool with what was happening from the adult, but they're still children, right?
Yeah, sure.
And if you keep them from lashing out and teach them how to roll with it, if you teach them how to have a positive next step to be able to respond correctly, then you don't have a generation of cities burning. So, it only takes once if you're doing it right.
Right.
So I don't know anything about what's going on. I honestly don't. I mean, I knew something was happening, but I don't.
Doesn't know what's going on. You
I
just
don't-
in Kansas City. I mean,
Kansas City. I mean, I was busy, man.
Yeah.
I remember.
I mean, I don't mean to say that you live in, but someone's getting pulled over. Anyway,
I hope he comes back. I miss talking to him.
yeah, no, he's
So-
awesome. He's fantastic. He's also, but at the same time, his main job is to stop people from going through
red
public
lights.
square. Who knows what's going on there?
So-
Okay, no, but let me just backtrack.
Okay.
Kansas City. I mean that it doesn't matter if it's Kansas City, St. Louis, Detroit. I'm turning into a Huey Lewis song here.
Or James Brown.
Hot tub. This is everywhere. People in
Yeah.
Britain, people in Russia are waiting. This woman from Los Angeles wants America to burn down, Josh.
So
Kearney.
she says. Right?
Yes. You get in their face and say they are not welcome.
That was years ago. Maybe
3
she's
years ago.
changed.
No,
Maybe
she
she's
hasn't changed
evolved.
at all.
So here's what I want to offer you.
Beautiful hairdo of hers.
We have so many other things to focus on that need to be free of distraction.
Right.
I find it as a blessing that I don't have these things going on in my head.
Yes.
And I think I'm very, very fortunate. But I can tell you, I don't know much about the politics on either side right now. I mean, I'm literally view me as ignorant of what's happening. I don't want to think about it. But I can tell you that human nature begs this question. If you're going to live in a place that's that destructive, okay, where there's destruction around you,
Yeah.
and there's no ability to rationalize or negotiate with the destructors, the
Right.
destroyers.
Yeah, like Portland, Oregon.
I would say, and again, now I have never been to Portland either. I would say that human nature begs the question, why aren't those businesses just moving to another city where they're not going to get burned down?
Good question. Because they can't.
Because it happened in
have a
Detroit.
bank loan.
And it wasn't even violence in Detroit.
Right.
So it is.
Interesting.
It's always possible for you to move out of a destructive
That was
situation.
forced because of the issue, because of the industry that died there. 2-3
It
times.
wasn't
over
forced.
the
Those
last
people
20
still
years.
made a choice. Here's
Yeah.
my point is this. You still have a choice to leave the destructive or violent situation and move to a place that is going to be more positive to you. And that's actually the way that we're designed, right? Some people move out of the path of least resistance. Most people, almost everyone who's successful, takes the other course, which is to focus on what they want and step through the frustration, through what they're going through, and the fear of the unknown, which we all have,
Right.
every one of us that you've ever met,
Right.
and step through the frustration and go to a more beneficial situation. So I have no ill will for anybody in any city.
No, and
I do worry a little bit about people because remember that if you start playing on what you should in the doer and the deed, if you start focusing on the deed and the doer being separate, and these folks that have gone down this rabbit hole of violence, and I don't know what side they're on personally. I've never met any of them. I have seen a harmless journalist once. I mean, this is all it took, get assaulted by a mob of people, and that was all I needed to see.
when was that? Just curious.
That was last
you saw
summer.
in
That was
person?
Andy No. No, it
Oh,
was
on
the Andy
TV.
No thing, and that's when I stopped.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you knew what his politics were, they're not the same as most people would think.
Is that the Asian man?
He's a very small Asian man.
Yeah, very small. And they were throwing all
Diminutive,
types of
Yeah.
The Antifa people were throwing
Scratched cornea, he got a concussion.
Yeah, he was
And
messed
somebody who's literally that harmless being assaulted by folks that
Right.
we'll never know.
Right.
That was all. I mean, I can't.
Yeah, but you know,
refuse
there's
to
something. I
bring
mean,
that into
again,
my
to be
life.
he's a small man, but to be assaulted by people that, for the most part, their number one sport growing up was hacky sack in the schoolyard. That's what
Well, I don't
Antifa
know
people.
that.
Yes, I do know that. Let me explain.
Okay.
Antifa people are losers. They've always been.
Len,
losers.
I can't put this on the air, man.
And that's all I'm going to say about that.
I
because
believe
I'm
you
not supposed to say
100%,
that.
and
There you go.
I'm behind you, but I can't say that on the air in this broadcast, dude.
Okay, listen. We're business partners. We discuss these things. I try to extract things in the lane.
And
At the
you do
same
re-
time, I have political, innuendos here and there, whatever you want to call it, references, especially now, waiting for a verdict that might burn down the whole country and whatnot. I'm, worried. I'm worried. And therefore, to speak to someone who's so soothing like Michael Douglas here, otherwise known as Josh Kearney, I don't know how he can just neglect all this. And I love that. My wife's the same way. I watch Fox News all the time, and I feel like I shouldn't be. So anyway, that's where I'm
Because
at right now.
I might get a little misty here.
Yeah.
I went through a long time in an adversarial position.
Right.
And I refuse to see us versus them ever again.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would, but that's easier said than done, Josh. You know that.
It becomes easier and easier to do as you practice it.
Right.
So initially it's not easy because that's not how we're built. And when you see something that works versus something that doesn't, when you see people that are minding their business and cheering for others to be successful
True.
versus a group of people that seem to want to tear everything down,
Right,
it's
right.
very, very difficult.
It
It's
is.
very difficult, but it's there and it's possible and you can do it. So I invite everybody to just take 15 minutes and attempt to do that.
In other words, let me see if I can understand this. Take a deep breath, like they say. Just kind of escape from the world if you can. It's tough to do, though. We understand that. And you have children and whatnot. So, again, I'm the one that shouldn't be so hung up on stuff and whatnot. I'm worried about myself, my wife, worried about the world. You have a lot more things to worry about. So would you say then that your control, if you will, your mindset, is that who you are based on hypnosis? Did this make you a better person for what you do for a living? Seems like it does.
Hypnosis and neurolinguistics and change work
Yeah,
will
right.
always make you a better version of yourself.
Huh. Interesting.
So you don't have to become somebody different.
Right.
As you take these things away, as you strip off these things that were causing strife, that weren't just working anymore, as you strip those things away, you become a better person.
Let me ask a question real quick.
A better version of yourself. A better version of yourself.
Okay, so Dalai Lama, right? Is he a spiritual? Are we
don't know.
talking
Never met
about? Okay, the reason why I bring that up because that crazy bastard out of Albany area.
Oh, we
can't talk about it.
doing that.
Okay, all right. So and I understand, but I
Here.
okay, go ahead.
So that gentleman that we're talking about from the cult
Yeah.
used some of our technology with people
Yes.
and took advantage of them.
All right. All right. Women
And-
mostly.
And he too could read people. Remember, he was using it for his own selfish needs.
Right.
Or means, not
Right.
needs.
Right. Sure.
He appeared to by what nothing that he did is anything that we do. Mm-hmm. The groups that we belong to, we're held accountable to a point that is uncomfortable for a lot of people. What it was billed like with the Dalai Lama and Keith Raniere
Yeah.
from Nexium,
Right. Nexium.
who
Sounds like a hair salon.
Yeah, he actually mixed our industry with Amway.
Interesting. Yeah, he did. Yeah. I
So-
saw that with
and-
Stacy Keach.
An incredible amount of
American Greed.
mental abuse with people. And in the end, physical abuse. That's how he ended up in court, and that's how he ended up getting 170 years in jail.
Yeah, and they were branding themselves, literally. It's just awful.
But they were branding those poor girls,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So it appeared on several documentaries that he got endorsed by the Dalai Lama
Right.
by paying somebody somewhere about $2 million
To get the Dalai Lama here.
to get him as the endorsement.
Right.
So that's all I know, man. I don't know the Dalai Lama. I don't know anything about Buddhism, man.
No, but at the same time, there was a guy who was very dangerous. I know his IQ, whatever his name was, Keith something. His IQ was like 160.
So they say.
So they say. And he's basically was the Bernie Madoff of his industry. He was a guy that got into the industry. He was very intelligent, like Madoff, and he just manipulated people.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it shows you that IQ tests are shit, because the only thing that really matters is how you respond to folks, how you leave people, when you leave somebody, when you break from somebody or you interact with somebody and then walk away, how they perceive you and how their life has been afterwards is the only thing that counts. IQ tests, I think, are the most ridiculous thing.
I agree with you. I agree. I mean, David Koresh, remember, could barely spell his own name, and yet he was he manipulated thousands of
Depending
people
on the
Branch
account,
Davidians.
he was very good at connecting to people, and I don't know.
Not to mention, he looked like Jim Morrison. He was a good-looking guy, and I think that helped him, just like Keith there in Albany area. That helps.
Well, Keith wasn't good looking.
Well, I
Weird.
mean, he wasn't bad looking, but then again, Willie Nelson isn't the greatest looking guy in the world.
when I saw the first version of that documentary with him,
yeah,
and I'm going to tell you, I watched the first episode, and I was at a training, and it was the night before the training, and my daughter was coming in on a plane, and we are going to go visit the University of Tampa. And I'm laying in bed, and I'm a teetotaler, so I'm in bed by 9.
okay.
And I'm laying in bed, and I found it, and I started watching it.
Who you, Tom Brady?
Pretty much. No, I'm not, not Tom Brady. So, but if he's a teetotaler, I do the same thing.
He goes to bed at 8
Well, there
during
you
the
go.
season, at least. Yeah.
I'm in bed. I put it on because it looked neat. And I was, in the first 20 minutes, I was terrified.
Well,
I
you
was
really-
terrified because I've, in this industry,
Yeah,
for
the power.
When evil people get a hold of anything,
Right.
they can turn it into anything they want. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, look at these, and I won't go too far down the hole on this, but there's a rapper right now who is hawking satanic Nikes
right.
for $1,018 because that passage in the Bible, chapter 10, verse 18, is when Satan fell to earth.
right.
And it's just mind-numbing to me what people will do.
Well, I mean, ignorance. I mean, look. Howard University is getting rid of the classics in as far as Socrates, philosophers, and so forth.
Any of them.
All of them, because they feel like, well, that's part of the establishment, the white domain, and all. I know we're not here for that. But again, it's just anything's possible these days, Josh. That's where we're going, and ignorance is definitely the path.
So when you ask for help from people, you want to make sure, when you want to make a change, you want to make sure that change is the number one thing. You're not looking for power, that you personally aren't looking to be able to manipulate things in a bad way towards yourself, in a negative way from somebody else's perspective towards you. It's actually, and what you're looking for is an actual situation where things are being closed up, where the wounds are being closed up, and you want your future to be in the front of your mind. And it's got to be good for self and others. And that's really it.
All
We
right.
touched on a lot of good things today.
A lot of good things. We're actually longer than we normally are, and words or conclusions to today's podcast. What say you, Josh Kearney?
Once you watch this, there's going to be some things that don't make sense completely right away, but it will sink in the way that
That's me. That's why I need to be hit over the head. Go ahead.
it'll sink in, right? These suggestions, these responses you want to have will sink in. And it's okay to break it down, to rewatch certain parts.
Right. Good point.
And we expect you to be able to, if you really are interested in making your life better, forward this to somebody you like, follow the channels, all of our channels, all the links are in the description. And you want to be able to subscribe to the YouTube channel because we'll have clips of important points from this. We look forward to hearing from you as we continue this journey, as Glenn and I continue this journey into positive human change and making your lives better, we are also making our lives better as well while you follow along with us.
Right.
So it's an important example both ways that we're just regular guys, just like everybody else.
I
And
agree.
here we are.
Yeah, yeah. Waiting
here we
for
are
the
for
world
you.
to burn.
So if you want to speak more about it, you can reach me at 315-432-1514. You can reach Glenn at 315-783-7903.
I can't believe you remember that number. All the boy,
It's
you got
like
a photographic
poetic.
memory. It is
It is
7903.
poetic.
Yeah.
Check back. Follow H2O Studios. We have a lot of fun programming,
Right.
both locally and nationally geared.
Yeah, yeah, and let me just set this up. Obviously, I want to separate myself from Josh and his hiatus with another company doing a general manager thing there for a while. Now I'm back in the seat again, and so my views do not reflect those of Josh Kearney. Just for the record. Go ahead. Sorry.
But I appreciate you have views.
Yeah, well, of course we all do. We all should. I mean, it's important to express yourself. And we've had people come up to our podcast studio just in the last couple of months who were never involved with politics or social issues until the last couple of years. So I applaud that. I really do.
Everybody that we interact with, everybody that we do business with on a professional level, everyone we're personal with, we all have one thing in common, and that is
We're all people.
we're all Americans.
Right. Well, not all of us, but we are humans. We have
You
a
just
heart.
killed that one.
Oh, sorry. Well, I just thought. So, in other words, we're all Americans. You're absolutely right. But a lot of us don't want to see America succeed. And again, I that's getting back to what you were saying earlier. A lot of us don't want to see others succeed. A lot of envy and jealousy that gets in the way, Josh.
So for the record, we all want to see you succeed. We want to see you succeed. We love you. We're so glad that you're watching. If you have any concerns or all that interest that you've built up by listening to us,
Yes.
you can go ahead and call us and message us or comment here below. We're here to have fun with you. We're here to have fun sometimes at our own expense.
Yeah.
And we have a great time dealing with everybody here, and we love you so.
Well, Josh Kearney, thanks once again for Get Real Podcasts. You have a lot. You've done a lot before this, but this is the second podcast, or Get Real Podcast.
It's the third.
Third one we've done together?
Yeah.
Well, we didn't call it Get Real Podcast, so I'm losing track here. But this is the way we do it. So, obviously we're talking off the cuff here, no script. The dynamics here are not complete. We share a lot of things. We love sports. We love the world. We love our country. We're conservatives. But this is kind of an odd couple setup, wouldn't you say? I mean, you have a different, you're definitely more laid back. I'm more high strung. I don't know why, although Josh could tell me one day, and hopefully Josh can help you and explore your life and what's going through your mind these days. Because a lot of us are dealing with things we've never explored before, Josh. That's one thing we can agree on. The world has changed at least 2-3 times just in the last year. So having someone like Josh at North Country Alternative, or anyone watching right now in the Syracuse area or in Kansas City for that matter, you have a person to go to, Josh. I'm sure people will reach out to you. That's why we do these podcasts here from the H2O studio here high above Public Square in Watertown. For Josh Kearney, I am Glenn Curry, and we hope to see.
I wanna keep
Wait,
going.
what, you got one more thing from Josh?
No, you're on live, right? Well,
Yes,
I'm gonna
we're
need
live,
this-
yeah.
I'm going to need some of this tape, so folks are going to have to watch some of my extra stuff here.
Yeah,
at the end.
well, that's very true because we are live right now. But for the most part, most people will watch the entire version of this with the interview that you did with Scott.
So I'm actually put an intro here for the Scott portion of the interview.
Yes, go for it. Okay, all right. You want me to start? Let me start.
ahead, go for it.
Okay, all right. So earlier you talked to Scott. Okay, Josh, you talked to Scott earlier for a good 20, 25 minutes. Explain exactly what you talked about.
So in a moment, you'll see Scott McFall, who is the master of change work, right? A master of reading folks and helping them find exactly what they want to change. And this is what came of our interview, and it's here now, like that.
Good. Okay, now I'm going to come back to me and says, "Wow, that was very good. I was there when you talked to Scott. So what do you think about what Scott just said?
I think we did that.
You did that? Okay. Good.
I mean, we did that through the.
All right. So let me finish this
I'll
off.
just stick it in there.
Folks, thanks for watching. If you're watching live, thank you very much. Look for the finished version on YouTube and on the Get Real podcast on Facebook. For everyone here from H2O Studios, you have a good day.